Coming up on this week's edition of NTV's Grow, we'll have an in-depth look at a Nebraska family who felt forced to move due to the state's property taxes. And this year marks the 150th year of the Nebraska State Fair. We have a look at some changes that are expected for this year. And spring migration begins, an eagle eye view from Johnson Lake. It's time to grow. Thanks for joining us tonight for NTV's Grow. I'm Regina Bird. Steve has the night off. A Nebraska proposal aimed at so-called fake meat is drawing attention to new alternatives. Steve has the story.
Support grows for an effort to define meat in Nebraska. 6 senators have now signed on to a bill introduced in the legislature by Senator Carol Blood that would define meat as a livestock product. Plant-based and lab-created products could not be called meat, and anyone who mislabels meat could be guilty of a misdemeanor. In response, Jessica Almy of the Good Food Institute responded to us on Twitter. She said it's sad to see Nebraska try to follow Missouri's lead to censor plant and cell-based meat. She calls it a violation of the First Amendment and says it's censorship in the name of protecting an industry from competition. Many in the cattle industry are concerned about this meat labeling issue and feel it's misleading to call a product meat if it doesn't come from livestock. Much of the discussion has come around so-called lab-created or cell-based meat, but some of these products do get their start on the farm. The pulse crop sector is particularly interested in these new products because peas and other pulses are some of the ingredients used in these new items hitting grocery store shelves.
There's a couple of manufacturers I have had where they use pea protein in a hamburger-like product, and the second opportunity is perhaps an enhancement where they take meat and add pulses or plant protein to that product, improving it. They can make it stay red longer. They can make it juicier.
And while red meat eaters may bristle at the idea, those who promote pulse crops say these products have gotten better.
Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it tasted a lot like crushed up beans, but now they've actually made it taste better. They add beets and other vegetables to give you a red feeling for it. So it's really great. And I've had one product I like is the Beyond Meat burger. It's a great burger. It's not exactly a hamburger, but it's a great alternative to a hamburger.
Most pulse crops are exported, and of those used domestically, about 25% go to pet food. There are also milk alternatives made from pulse crops. Nebraska's meat labeling proposal has been referred to the legislature's Agriculture Committee, where public testimony will be taken. Steve White, NTV News, Grand Island.
When it comes to meat alternatives, we want to know what you think. Should plant and lab-based products be able to label themselves as meat? Yes, no, or unsure. Follow Grow on Twitter to weigh in. A 30-member Chinese trade delegation is set to be in Washington, D.C. this week to continue negotiations with the U.S. The negotiations are ahead of a March 1st deadline. If no deal is reached, President Trump has vowed to raise tariffs to 25% on Chinese goods, up from the 10% currently imposed tariffs. On Thursday, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said there is a lot of work to be done, and it may be unlikely, but still possible, to reach a deal before the March deadline. Intellectual property rights still remain the centerpiece of U.S. demands. When it comes to ag negotiations across the country, Nebraska will have one voice on the House Ag Committee. Omaha Congressman Don Bacon is on the committee's roster for 2019. Bacon says he's excited to be back on the committee and that the people of our state depend on agriculture, with 1 out of every 4 jobs in Nebraska related to agriculture. Bacon was a part of putting together the 2018 Farm Bill. The Nebraska State Fair is expanding options on how you can buy tickets to this year's concerts. This year marks the 150th year of the fair, and fair officials say there are a lot of special plans in the works. Tiffany Maddox has the details.
Board and committee members for the Nebraska State Fair met in Kearney Friday to discuss the planning and budgeting of the big event in August. Members spent hours trying to make sure the fair is a success. Executive Director Lori Cox says you will be surprised.
We also have an awful lot going on in celebration of the 150th. Opening shows, closing shows, maybe a bit of fireworks, some things about big cakes.
This year's fair also comes with big changes. One change, the location of the concerts. Cox says that the safety of fairgoers is the committee's top priority.
All of our concerts are moved into the Heartland Event Center after the 6 inches of rain that we succumbed to last year. We just felt it was better to stay off the track and not have the risk, both in safety and from weather precarity.
Fairgoers can expect to see a few new bundle deals for concerts and admission. Tickets for the concert series go on sale next Friday, January 25th at 10 a.m. Tickets will be available online or at the new box office at the Nebraska building on State Fair grounds. For NTV News, I'm Tiffany Maddox, Kearney.
Longtime sorghum champion Ronald Royce Saylor of Hastings passed away this past Monday. In 1980, Saylor helped organize and charter the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Producers Association, where he worked to help fellow farmers through research, grain quality, and promoting exports. He traveled to 26 foreign countries in an effort to transfer technology, discuss trade obstacles, and field complaints on grain quality. Saylor was 91 years old. A charter Nebraska Grazing Lands Coalition board member also passed away this week. Lynn Myers of Llewellyn died last Wednesday. The Nebraska Grazing Lands Coalition coordinator said that, quote, Lynn will be remembered for his many years of unsurpassed grazing management, unselfish dedication to the grazing community, and for his passion for helping to create or preserve an opportunity for the next generation of grazers, end quote. Still ahead tonight, we'll introduce you to the family that says that they slashed their property taxes by 3,000% just by packing up and moving their farm out of state. And next, what happens to those giant grain bags when they're done being used to store corn?